What can the Patriots learn from the Eagles' Super Bowl victory? I give you the blueprint back to contention here on Patscast.
Fly, Patriots, fly, build that wall, stack the line, make the money fall. No blitz, just force crash through the gate. The road to
Welcome to Patscast. I'm Brad Whitaker. Good to be with you. As we all know, the Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions in what was a pretty dull football game. But if you're a Patriots fan, you're probably happy with the results. But I think there were a ton of lessons coming out of this game. Just the way the Philadelphia Eagles handled the Kansas City Chiefs reminds me a lot of how other teams in the past handled the New England Patriots during their ongoing dynasty. And I'll get to that in just a moment. But people think winning football games in the modern era is about having dynamic players, mobile quarterbacks, explosive plays, being able to put a lot of points on the board so that you can win every game in a shootout. While that is a modern trend for most NFL offenses, it is not a foolproof way to win games. That said, there is a foolproof way to win Super Bowls that works, that has always worked, and will always work no matter how much the game evolves in the future. We all know the Kansas City Chiefs, they were knocking on the door of Tom Brady and the Patriots dynasty on Saturday evening. Something tells me that conversation is over based on the results on Sunday. At least we're not going to talk about it for another year or two. Mahomes, Andy Reid and company, they got a long way to go to even catch the Patriots at this point. We should be talking about the Chiefs with the Niners and the Cowboys and the Giants and the Steelers. They're not even in the same radar as the New England Patriots at this point. So I think that conversation is over. And that's because the Eagles beat the Chiefs on Sunday by doing exactly what the few NFL teams who were able to beat the Tom Brady Patriots were able to do. The difference is Brady at least kept some of these games close, unlike Patrick Mahomes, who was blown out in this Super Bowl and was blown out in his other Super Bowl loss to the Bucs for the exact same reason. And that is one thing. That is getting to the quarterback without having to blitz. Once you add that fifth pass rusher, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Patrick Mahomes, some of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play, they will all rip you apart. But if you have enough talented players that they can get to the quarterback without extra help, that is the recipe to winning championships in the NFL, and it always has been. I don't care how dazzling, how dynamic, how explosive the offenses have become. We learned on Sunday that recipe still works, and I don't see it ever going away. Remember the New York Giants, the 2 Super Bowls they beat the Patriots in? That was their strategy. Rush 4, keep everyone else back in coverage, make life as difficult for Brady because we have a great pass rush and we don't have to depend on the blitz. It was seen even more, I would argue, in those 2 AFC Championship games that the Patriots lost on the road to the Denver Broncos. We all know the talented players that they had on defense. Well, they did blitz a little from what I remember, but for the most part, they were just able to rush 4 all game, and Brady didn't have many options to throw the football and didn't have the time to do it. Now, if you blitz these guys, you blitz any good quarterback in the NFL. Matthew Stafford, cover 0, remember that? He saw it coming, immediately threw it downfield for a touchdown. Same thing happened with Geno Smith. Like, modern NFL quarterbacks generally, the good ones, generally know how to handle the blitz when it comes their way. And Mahomes, you rush the 5th man, like he's going to know that split-second gap in the field where he can get rid of the football. Tom Brady was great at that. But once you're able to rush 4 and drop everybody else back, life gets very difficult. I don't care how great of a quarterback you are. That's how you win games in the NFL, dominating on defense. Football is won in the trenches. You need a strong pass rush that doesn't depend on the blitz, and you need a strong offensive line to prevent said pass rush. Unfortunately for the Patriots, this past season they ranked at or near the bottom in both categories. They had by far the worst offensive line in football, and it wasn't even close, according to the Pro Football Focus rankings. And depending on how you measure it, the Patriots had either one of the worst or the worst pass rush in all of football last season. So the areas where the Philadelphia Eagles were the strongest, big-bodied offensive linemen that can protect basically a mediocre quarterback. We know Jalen Hurts is dynamic, he can scramble, but at least throwing the football, he leaves a lot to be desired. Didn't matter. They had a great offensive line in front of him, but most importantly, they had the biggest, fastest defensive line, arguably in Super Bowl history, and that's how they were able to make Patrick Mahomes' life a living hell on Sunday and win the Super Bowl. Sunday convinced me we are having the wrong conversation when we're talking about weapons for Drake May. Mike Reese talked about this earlier today on 98.5. Stop focusing on the receivers. We know Drake May needs protections. Worry about the weapons later. He needs a defense that will give him more chances. Worry about the weapons later. Frankly, after Sunday's game, I'm willing to say worry about the offense later. Because with the worst offensive line and perhaps the worst receiving core in the NFL, Drake May was still somehow able to put up points consistently. If the other team can't put up points, it does not matter who you have on offense, you're still going to win games. Right now, you look at the Patriots on their defensive front. You got Keion White on the edge. Great player. Christian Barmore in the middle at defensive tackle. Great, assuming he's healthy. Devon Godshaw in the middle. Dietrich Wise on the edge, opposite Keion White. I'm not sure. Godshaw, Belichick loved the guy, but he's not exactly an elite player. And Dietrich Wise did have some good moments this year. He was in the running for Walter Payton Man of the Year. He did badmouth the fans at the end of the season. But look, you got Keion White and Christian Barmore. Those are great players. I think you can upgrade at the other two spots. And there are two pass rushers in this year's draft that I guarantee will be impactful players on day one if they go to the Patriots. Of course, there's Abdul Carter, the edge rusher, who may be off the board from Penn State. A lot of people thought he would be available at 4th overall, but he seems to be moving up all the mock draft boards, and we don't expect him to be available at this point, but who knows? He may fall to number 4. That said, Mason Graham, the defensive tackle for Michigan, very good player. He likely will be available. If you get one of those guys, you're 3/4 of the way there. But here's the thing. This observation that I'm talking about today, that you win championships, defense wins championships, especially pass rushers win championships. Every team watch the Super Bowl, and they're going to prioritize these types of players. So these players are going to be a premium now, at least this offseason, which means Abdul Carter might be off the board, and Mason Graham potentially could be off the board by 4th overall. I don't think it's likely, but it is very possible. And then maybe you have a chance to draft Travis Hunter, but right now, I think the Patriots need to focus on making them have one of the best pass rushes in the NFL, because the Eagles proved that can beat some of the greatest teams of all time. And look, if neither of those guys are going to be available at 4, well, you should plan for that, and you should address these positions during free agency. And let's start with the Eagles. Josh Sweat, defensive end, certainly earned himself a payday yesterday that not many teams can pay. But you know who can? The New England Patriots can, because they have the most cap space in the NFL. He's going to get a big payday. Milton Williams, the defensive tackle for the Eagles, he's also going to get a good payday after Sunday's performance. Patriots could afford to pay him. Now you can pluck one of those guys there and start having your own Eagle-style defensive line. Who else might be available this offseason? There's Khalil Mack, defensive end for the LA Chargers. There were rumors that he was going to retire. He wants to go to a contender. I guess he's gonna come back for another season. Not sure the Patriots are high on his list, but if you can convince him that, hey, we plan to have the best defensive front in football, and you're a big part of that, Mike Vrabel certainly has experience coaching those positions and certainly was effective at getting to the quarterback as a player, even if he was a linebacker. Maybe you could convince Khalil Mack. You could always just overpay and bring him to New England. And then there's, of course, Hassan Reddick for the New York Jets. If he's pissed off of that organization, I can't think of a better way of getting back at them than going to the Patriots. Again, the Patriots, if they can upgrade from Dietrich Wise to Josh Sweat or Khalil Mack, or upgrade from Devon Godshaw to Milton Williams, like, that would be incredible. And that would get them in a position where they can start winning football games regardless of who is on the offensive side of the football. And of course, there's the players that I mentioned last week on the podcast that may be available via trade. There's Max Crosby with the Raiders. I'm not sure if he's going to be available, but they're in a new situation there. They're going to be looking to move cap space around, and getting Max Crosby off the books is an effective way of doing that. Patriots might as well take a shot at it. There you got another good edge rusher. There's also Trey Hendrickson with the Cincinnati Bengals, another edge rusher. We know Bengals can't afford to pay Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, and Trey Hendrickson all at the same time. Like, probably two of those guys are going to have to go. Now, Joe Burrow this past week, I don't even know if this was against league rules. It might have been, but he was openly talking about how he's willing to restructure his contract to bring his favorite weapons back. And I know we've all been talking about T. Higgins needs to come to the Patriots. Well, you have to convince T. Higgins to come to the Patriots, and I'm not sure money is going to be the reason why he would go to Foxborough. He probably wants to go to a contender. And if somehow the Bengals are able to work it out where they can keep Burrow, Higgins, and Chase, well, then certainly they're going to be looking to move Trey Hendrickson, and the Patriots can go grab him, extend him, pay him whatever he wants, and there you go. There you got your edge rusher opposite Keion White. I think that is a real target that the Patriots should consider. I think other teams are probably considering Trey Hendrickson. Hell of a player if you can bring him to New England. Also, Jeffrey Simmons, defensive tackle with the Titans, if you're looking for the interior player to potentially replace Godchaux. And I'm not saying Godshaw's a bad player, right? Like, I think he's a pretty good run defender, but we learned from the Eagles, you need big bodies out there that are almost an elite level. That's how you win Super Bowls. Jeffrey Simmons with the Titans would certainly do that, and apparently he accidentally, scare quotes if you're listening, accidentally liked a tweet about him being potentially traded to the Patriots. We know he worked with Mike Vrabel. I believe he was drafted to the Titans Vrabel's first or second year in Tennessee. From everything I've heard, they have a good relationship. That's another trade that the Patriots should consider. And of course, there's Myles Garrett, who requested a trade, arguably the best defensive player in football. He wants to go to a contender too, but if you're willing to pay him, we know the Browns, they want to rebuild, and they want to do it with young players. They have the chance to have the number 2 and the number 4 pick. I'd be willing to trade the 4th overall pick for Myles Garrett and pay him whatever he wants. Myles Garrett opposite Keion White with Christian Barmore, and then another upgrade at defensive tackle. Then you're looking like the Eagles. You might even look better than the Eagles with the defensive front if you do that. The Eagles built the blueprint. The biggest, fastest defensive line possible that doesn't have to blitz. It's a foolproof method. It has always worked. It's made Tom Brady's life a living hell. It's made Peyton Manning's life a living hell. And it made Patrick Mahomes' life a living hell yesterday. If the Patriots ignore all other positions, they have the same team as last year, except they give themselves an Eagles-style defensive front, they will be a playoff team. Yes, Drake May is going to struggle behind Vidarian Lowe once again. I'm not saying do that, but I'm just saying if all they did this offseason was address the defensive line so they were like the Eagles, Patriots would be back in the playoffs and maybe even go on a little bit of a run. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl, but that's how much of a difference a defensive line unit like the Eagles had, like the Broncos had, like the New York Giants had, like the Baltimore Ravens had in the early 2000s. That's the difference. That's how much of a difference it can make from being a bad team to being a pretty good team. And then you fill out the rest. As Mike Reese said earlier, football needs to be built from the inside out. Now, this is a hypothetical, right? That doesn't mean you don't draft or sign offensive linemen. That is definitely the next most important unit inside out. That doesn't mean you don't find weapons for Drake May or draft Travis Hunter if he's available. Like I said, defensive linemen are going to be a premium now because of the Eagles. Those teams in the top 3 are going to be looking very heavily, not just at Abdul Carter, but also at Mason Graham, which means Travis Hunter could fall to you at number 4. And I'm not saying you don't draft him if that's the case, but you have to address it in free agency so you have the flexibility to bring in a Travis Hunter or take a shot at a receiver or a weapon for Drake May in the draft. If you build it through free agency or via trade, then you have the flexibility to do whatever it is that you want. But like I said, defensive linemen are going to be a premium after what the Eagles proved. You already have Keion White and Christian Barmore if he's healthy. Go get another defensive tackle and an edge, and the skies are the limit. Eagles gave us the blueprint. I'm not sure why I didn't think of this before, because frankly, this blueprint, as I said at the top, has always existed. It will always exist. You know, the Eagles, I don't think they're going to be able to bring all these guys back, certainly. I mean, Josh Sweat and Milton Williams, maybe they can bring one of those guys back. They're not going to have the same defensive front last year. You might as well steal one of those guys, right? Or trade for Myles Garrett, or draft Abdul Carter or Mason Graham. There are a lot of opportunities here for the Patriots to build something like the Eagles had, but one of the worst pass rushes in the NFL this past season, and they really shouldn't have been, with Keion White out there. And I know Christian Barmore missed the majority of the season. You know, they were missing Juwan Bentley almost the entire year. But, you know, guys like Godshaw and Dietrich Wise should have been getting to the quarterback more, and they just were not. So, having Mike Vrabel there, a defensive-minded coach that is bringing in some new ideas, bringing in a defensive coordinator, Terrell Williams, that is not going to do exactly what Bill Belichick did for the last 20-plus years. You pair that with Josh McDaniels and the quality control that they're now going to have on both sides of the football. I'm very optimistic about the future of the Patriots, but I think this needs to be the biggest priority. I know we've all talked about a left tackle. I know we've all talked about a big-bodied wide receiver. Trade for A.J. Brown or DK Metcalf, and I'm not saying you don't do that if you can, but the priority needs to be getting the pass rush back to New England, because that needs to be the identity of this team. The Patriots are an organization that needs to rely on having one of the best defenses in the league. That just feels like the Patriot way. It's the Foxborough way. Cold weather team, tough, nose to the grindstone. That's what the Patriots need to be. And I think that's what Mike Vrabel is going to try to get them to be. And he's the one calling the shots now, right? And you know he was watching that game going, I think we can build something like that pretty quickly. Again, you got Keion White and Christian Barmore. Add a couple more pieces. We know they're going to be running, in all likelihood, a base 4-3, so you're going to want those four guys up there being able to get to the quarterback quickly. A lot of opportunity with the Patriots in terms of draft capital, in terms of cap space, in terms of players that could potentially be available. I think they have a real shot here at getting back to the playoffs if they're able to address this offseason and then fill out the rest down the road. That's just my opinion, but let me know if you disagree in the comments below. If you're watching on YouTube, let me know. Do you want this awesome defensive front like I want? Do you think they should prioritize the offensive line? Do you think it's all about weapons, as many have suggested? Curious to hear from you, and if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell, or subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and we'll be back soon with more New England Patriots coverage.
History shows there's a different need. It ain't just weapons, it ain't just flash. You win in the trenches, that's how you last. Look at the Giants, look at the Birds. Pressure up front, no need for words. Mahomes, Brady, the greats all know, if you don't blitz but still bring woe, it's game over, bro. Fly, Patriots, fly, build that wall, stack the line, make the mighty fall. No blitz, just force crash through the gate. The road to rings is built on fate. Drayton's got talent, let the kid breathe. Give him protection, let the pocket seethe. Barmore's a beast, Keion set. But we need more to bring the threat. Mason Graham, Abdul Carter. One of these guys, it's time to barter. Josh Sweat, Reddick, Simmons too. Stack the front and push on through. Fly, Patriots, fly, build that wall. Stack the line, make the mighty fall. No blitz, just force crash through the gate. The road to rings is built on fate. rise